Hi, this is Kim Howerton. Welcome to the video. This is a video about keto and thyroid. And in fact, this is actually just the opening video because I'm going to do a series about keto and thyroid. Why is that? Why am I talking about this all of a sudden? Why is everyone talking about this all of a sudden? Well, a video was made a couple weeks ago where somebody made some pretty extreme claims, specifically keto wrecked my thyroid was the claim. And then in the video, they gave what they considered evidence for their theory about the mechanism by which keto wrecked their thyroid and how they discovered sort of a cover-up around this topic in the keto community. And at first, I wasn't going to respond about it. And quite honestly, I'm very uncomfortable doing this video because the last thing I want to do is attack somebody else in the keto community or any community, really. Like, I have a strong belief that we are all doing our best. And nobody deserves to be made fun of. Nobody deserves to be criticized personally. But I also have a strong belief in the truth. And I have a strong belief in discussing things that don't make sense. And so I'm just putting it out there. I'm just being really transparent. Like, I'm on the edge of what I'm comfortable here. I'm going to try I'm not mentioning this person's name. I'm not going to link to any of their stuff because I don't want this to be a she said match, right? I don't want this to be ugly. I want this to be factual. I want this to be about the studies and the facts and the assertions, the claims. And so I'm going to be sharing some quotes that have to do with what the claims are. I'm going to be talking about the claims. And hopefully that kind of lays a groundwork around what I'm trying to discuss while keeping anything personal out of it. Because the reality is, we've all been wrong before. And I could be wrong now. We've all been wrong. And no one deserves any hate about it, right? We're just all out here doing our best. If it was just that this person was talking about things that I didn't agree with, I certainly wouldn't be doing a video about it. There are lots of people doing things I don't agree with. But a lot of you have been watching this video and getting scared. And you are my people. And I feel protective of you. And so it made it worth it to me to step out of my comfort zone and to really kind of dissect some of these issues so that you got another perspective. And so I'm going to be specific about the claims being made because it's important because some of the claims being made are kind of extreme. And I want to make sure, I feel like, at first I was like, well, I'll just do a thyroid series where I just talk about what is the thyroid and how does it work? And I was like, but some pretty serious claims are being made. And so I have to get into the details of those, which means bringing up some of the quotes that were made about what was said. So hopefully you understand. I'm doing my best here, guys. I don't want to be that girl. I don't want to be bitchy girl. I would like to be helpful girl. So, I'm gonna try and navigate this the best I can. I can't say I'm gonna do it perfectly. I'm gonna try. Okay. All right. So what were the claims being made? So the claims were that long-term ketosis will damage your thyroid through causing chronic high cortisol, and then that causes thyroid damage. That was sort of the gist of the claim. And in this video, this person was saying that she Googled. She wasn't feeling very well. She wasn't seeing the kind of success she wanted. She was having like weight loss issues, and then noticed the way she felt seemed to correlate with thyroid problems. This person had a history of thyroid problems, so wasn't unaware of the concept, but it had been managed, and then at some point it stopped being in control, as far as they can tell, from the symptoms. So this wasn't about any blood work, because there wasn't any, except for TSH. It was about the symptoms, and so the symptoms led them to believe that they had thyroid problems. So I buy it. Like, I buy that they have thyroid problems. I have thyroid problems. A lot of people have thyroid problems. So I'm not doubting any of the personal claims. So this person then said that they went to Google and they Googled, here, I have the direct quote because I want to make sure I get it right. I Googled keto plus thyroid plus metabolism, and my world pretty much exploded as I read study after study after study that showed that children who are put on a ketogenic diet for epilepsy are supplemented with thyroid hormone because being in ketosis blocks the function of the thyroid. So that's a claim, right? Because being in ketosis blocks the function of the thyroid. Continue the quote. I read it 3 or 4 times. The recommendation is that if you have a child who is going on a ketogenic diet for epilepsy, that you begin supplementing thyroxine, which is a thyroid supplement. It's a medication. That's the standard protocol. These children were becoming hypothyroid by being in ketosis for long periods of time. So I did more research, and it's true. The longer you spend in ketosis, the worse your thyroid gets and the worse your metabolism gets. Why does that happen? This is a continuation of a quote. I skipped a little bit of dialogue, but this is a quote as well. Being in ketosis blocks your liver from converting T4 into T3. Here's the reason why. So I'm not changing any of the quote, but I did skip a few lines that just weren't applicable to the, I'm trying to paint the train of thought, right? So I'm skipping a few filler lines, but I'm not changing anything. It's the same thing you can do when you're writing, right? ... Here's the reason why. Cortisol is a stress hormone. It's a blocker. It blocks the conversion of T4 to T3 in your liver. Okay, so that's the argument. So read many studies that told her that it's known that a ketogenic diet for epilepsy causes thyroid problems because keto blocks the function of the thyroid, and the reason why that's said later is that being in ketosis will block your liver from making T3 from T4, and the reason is cortisol, that we're in a high cortisol state. So that's the argument. And so that's what I'm going to talk about. And in the course of these videos, of which I will do many, bringing in some of my smarter than me friends to talk about the biochemistry and to talk about different perspectives. I don't just want you to have just my perspective. And I'll do a video going over all of the studies that are listed, because they did list a whole bunch of studies, some of which I'm still trying to figure out what they have to do with the claim. It's not immediately clear, but I will go over every single one of those studies from like my normal person perspective, and I'll talk to my scientist friends about them to say, like, did I miss something here when I was reading this study? I already have an interview lined up with some people doing a thyroid book. So I want to make sure we really delve into this topic because extraordinary claims, they kind of require you to look into them. And I don't want you guys running around with like crazy high cortisol and all your hair falling out. Thyroid problems suck. I know personally. So I really want to deconstruct all of this. But the first thing I want to address is this initial quote. So what this all got based on was this person starting to read what they call study after study about children with epilepsy on ketogenic diets. When I perused the studies that were provided, there were 2, one of which the children, in fact, did have a higher incidence of thyroid problems by the end of the study, one of which they didn't. So there was one study kind of leaning in each direction. Nowhere in the study did it suggest the mechanism of action. So it did not report a causal relationship. It did, in that the authors of the study that found that, I think it was like 20 kids out of like 100 kids, somewhere 120 kids, it was like somewhere around 17 to 20-ish%, that now most of these, the risk factor, it said, was that they had high TSH to begin with. So what does that mean? It means that these children already were showing some thyroid irregularities at the start of the study. And by the end, many of those who were already showing signs of thyroid problems by the end of the study had increased thyroid problems. And these children were put on thyroid medication. But the recommendation at the end wasn't that all children should be put on thyroid medication. It was that are ketogenic diet for epilepsy, right? Not all children, but not even all children on ketogenic diets for epilepsy. That recommendation was not even made in the paper. It was in the paper. The authors of the paper recommended that children would be monitored, that you watch for it. So I looked for evidence that there were many studies that showed this. I couldn't find them. I found one study on children that she provided, and I also found another study on adults that did show by the end of the study there were a few cases of hypothyroidism. But none of the studies said you should supplement as standard of care. And so I was really confused. I couldn't find where this claim came from. The claim specifically, again, was the recommendation is that you have a child going on a ketogenic diet for epilepsy. You begin supplementing thyroxine. That's the standard protocol, is what it says. So I actually, because I was like, this is a really extreme claim, and I really want to make sure I'm not just missing it. Maybe it exists, and maybe the link just didn't get in the notes somehow, and I really want to know, because, again, I want to operate on the best information I can. So I reached out to Eric Kossoff. Eric Kossoff is an MD. He's actually the director of this program. Hold on, let me get his title. The director of Child Neurology Residency Program at Johns Hopkins. So he's the kind of head honcho around ketogenic diet for epilepsy at Johns Hopkins, which is the sort of the preeminent place they're doing this. Like they're the place about ketogenic diet and epilepsy in kids. I reached out to him and I said, I've been told that this is a standard protocol. Can you talk to me about that? Because I haven't really seen evidence of that. I haven't seen it anywhere. He said, that's not the standard protocol. That's not the standard of care. He provided me with the 2018 consensus guidelines. So what all of the practitioners in this field look to for recommendations. He said, we don't even recommend you monitor the thyroid, to be perfectly honest. There was a lot of things they recommended you monitor, selenium status, all sorts of things, but not thyroid. He said, there have been, he acknowledged, a study or two that showed that there was a link. There have been an equal number of studies that show there isn't. And so while it is something we, would like to know more about if more things happen, at this time, there's not enough evidence, certainly not enough evidence for us to recommend treating children with medication that they have no indication they need. And so he said, no, that's not even the record. He said that was not true. And so I start from there. I want you guys to know that assertion is not true. Now, do I have confirmed evidence that nothing about this could ever be true? No, of course not. That's not how science works. But when we make an assertion, when we say, this is what happened because of this, and this is caused by that, you have to see that through and look at the science. And so that's what we're going to be doing over this series. But I felt like it was really important out of the gate to share this information that just is untrue. Now, again, I've certainly read a paper or a study or a thing, and I've later talked about it with someone else and said, and that thing, and they're like, what thing? And I'm like, I misremembered, right? Or you watched a movie and you're like, didn't he die? And right, memories are funny things. Again, I am not ascribing anything to malice, but it is the sort of the smoking gun of this thing that opens it up with, my eyes were opened by this thing I found out, but that thing isn't true. So I want you guys to know that it's not true. Now, we should talk about cortisol. We should talk about thyroid function. There are absolutely 100,000%. There are things we can do while on a ketogenic diet that may tank our thyroid. Absolutely. I'm not suggesting that ketosis is a protective state where nothing bad will ever happen to your thyroid. I'm not saying that. I have hypothyroidism. I continue to be medicated for hypothyroidism on my ketogenic diet. And to say that the leaps in logic here, that ketosis causes high cortisol long term. Again, I'll get into the details of this, but not short term, but long term, and just higher and higher and higher cortisol over time. And so that while short term ketosis is safe, is being asserted, long term ketosis is not, because of cortisol. So that whole theory should be analyzed. So we will be analyzing that theory in this series. I just wanted to start with a little fact checking that I felt like was important. I feel like the facts matter, and we should operate from facts. And theories, they need to be grounded in facts. And I totally want to be open to, over the course of this series, if I find out something where I'm like, wow, okay, that does seem iffy, I will tell you. I mean, the reality is, I eat carbs now. I am not in ketosis all the time. Again, I'm not trying to defend keto. I don't think keto needs defending, but I think facts need defending. And I think theories need proving. And I think that before we all get all riled up and upset, we should just evaluate the facts, evaluate the studies, make sure the studies say what we think they're saying, and where we see evidence for something and where we see more investigation needed, that we either do the investigation or look for others to do it, and that we keep an open mind and we keep in communication. So hopefully this was at least calming initially, and then just an opener to say what we're going to be getting into over the next few weeks. So please join me as we do so. If you have things you want me specifically to address, put them in the comments. Please don't share names or links or whatever. I'm trying to figure out, how do I keep this really factual, and I don't want anybody to get any hate or attacks or fighting about it. So let's just keep it about the facts. So if you have facts you want me to check on, things you want me to look at, things you've heard, rumors, supposition, please let me know. I'll try to include them in my discussion, and include just general thyroid knowledge as we go through this series. So hopefully by the end of it, you'll be more educated, because it took me a long time to get educated about these things, and I learned something new every day. And so if we learn new things in this series, more the better. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you're all doing wonderfully, and I'll talk to you soon.